World's biggest versus smallest egg, hatching experiment. What would happen if we placed the world's biggest egg and the world's smallest egg side by side and tried to hatch them? Would the giant egg produce a powerful animal? Would the tiny egg hatch much faster? Today, we're running an incredible hatching experiment to compare two completely different eggs from opposite ends of nature. Before we begin, remember that this is an educational simulation inspired by real animals and their eggs. We'll compare their size, development, incubation, and what happens when the babies finally hatch. Our experiment starts with two fascinating eggs. On one side is the enormous ostrich egg, the largest egg laid by any living bird. On the other side is the tiny bee hummingbird egg, one of the smallest bird eggs on Earth. Looking at them together is almost unbelievable. The ostrich egg is larger than many people's hands, while the hummingbird egg is about the size of a small jelly bean. The first thing we notice is their weight. The ostrich egg weighs around 1.4 kilograms, while the hummingbird egg weighs less than 1 gram. That's a difference of well over 1,000 times. Even though both are eggs, they couldn't be more different. Now it's time to prepare the incubators. Since these eggs come from different species, each requires its own perfect environment. The ostrich egg needs warm temperatures and regular turning to ensure the embryo develops correctly. The hummingbird egg also needs stable warmth, but because it is so tiny, even the slightest temperature change could affect its development. Day 1 begins. Both eggs appear perfectly normal. From the outside, nothing seems to be happening, but inside, millions of cells are already dividing. Tiny hearts are beginning to form, and the blueprint for two very different birds is already taking shape. By day 5, the differences become obvious. Using a special candling light, we can see that the hummingbird embryo occupies a large portion of its tiny egg. Meanwhile, inside the massive ostrich egg, the embryo is still relatively small compared to all the available space. On day 10, blood vessels spread like tiny rivers through both eggs. These vessels carry oxygen and nutrients from the yolk to the growing chick. Nature follows the same basic plan regardless of size, proving that even the smallest and largest eggs rely on similar biological processes. As the days continue, the ostrich embryo grows steadily, developing strong legs, a large beak, and thick muscles. The hummingbird embryo, meanwhile, forms incredibly delicate wings and an impossibly tiny beak designed to drink nectar after hatching. Around the middle of the incubation period, we compare the eggs again. The ostrich egg still looks enormous, almost like a bowling ball. The hummingbird egg seems so fragile that holding it requires incredible care. Despite the difference in size, both embryos continue growing successfully. By day 20, the hummingbird chick is nearly ready. It has feathers beginning to develop beneath its skin, tiny claws, and functioning organs. The ostrich chick still has many days left before hatching, showing that larger eggs generally require longer incubation periods. The waiting game becomes exciting. Every day we monitor humidity, temperature, and movement. Even small mistakes could prevent successful hatching. That's why birds in the wild spend so much time protecting their nests. Soon, tiny sounds begin coming from the hummingbird egg. They're almost impossible to hear without sensitive microphones. The chick is calling from inside the shell. Then something incredible happens. A tiny crack appears. This process is called pipping. Using a small structure called the egg tooth, the chick begins breaking through the shell one tap at a time. Even though it's incredibly small, the chick works tirelessly for hours. Finally, the shell opens. Out emerges one of the smallest baby birds imaginable. The newborn hummingbird is featherless, pink, and barely larger than a fingernail. It cannot fly, cannot feed itself, and depends completely on its parents. Our smallest egg has officially hatched. Now all attention shifts to the giant ostrich egg. Several more weeks pass. Inside the egg, the ostrich chick grows stronger every day. It absorbs the remaining yolk, which provides enough nutrition for its first few days after hatching. Finally, faint tapping echoes through the incubator. Unlike the hummingbird, the ostrich chick must break through a shell that is incredibly thick. This requires tremendous effort and patience. Hour after hour, the crack grows larger. Pieces of shell slowly fall away. Then, with one final push, the giant chick breaks free. The newborn ostrich is astonishing. It stands much taller than the hummingbird chick and is covered with soft striped feathers. Within a short time, it can stand on its own legs and even begin walking. Seeing both hatchlings side by side is almost unbelievable. The hummingbird chick could comfortably fit inside the empty ostrich shell. Their differences continue beyond size. The hummingbird will eventually grow into an expert flyer capable of hovering in midair and beating its wings dozens of times every second. The ostrich, however, will never fly. Instead, it becomes the fastest running bird in the world, capable of reaching speeds close to 70 kilometers per hour. Now let's compare some fascinating facts. The ostrich egg contains enough nutrition to feed a developing chick weighing over 1 kilogram. The hummingbird egg contains just enough nutrients for one of the tiniest birds on Earth. An ostrich eggshell is several millimeters thick and strong enough to support the weight of an adult human standing carefully on it. The hummingbird eggshell is so delicate that excessive pressure could easily crack it. Despite these huge differences, both chicks began life from a single fertilized cell. Nature is truly remarkable. Next, we compare how the hatchlings behave. The ostrich chick begins exploring almost immediately. Its long legs help it move around confidently, and its sharp eyesight allows it to recognize movement from a distance. The hummingbird chick remains inside the nest. Its eyes stay closed for several days, and it waits patiently for food delivered by its parents. As days pass, feathers begin growing on both chicks. The ostrich develops fluffy juvenile feathers that provide insulation and camouflage. The hummingbird gradually develops sleek feathers that will eventually shimmer with beautiful iridescent colors. Weeks later, both birds continue growing rapidly. The ostrich gains weight almost every day, eventually becoming one of the largest birds alive. The hummingbird grows into one of the smallest flying birds on Earth, proving that success in nature doesn't depend on size. Both birds have evolved perfectly for their environments. The ostrich survives by running across open grasslands. The hummingbird survives by mastering precise flight and feeding from flowers. Our experiment teaches us an important lesson. Big doesn't always mean better. Small doesn't mean weak. Every species has evolved unique adaptations that allow it to thrive. Whether it's a giant ostrich egg or a tiny hummingbird egg, each represents millions of years of evolution and remarkable engineering by nature. Watching these two eggs hatch reminds us how diverse life on Earth truly is. From the moment the embryos began developing until the chicks emerged, both followed the same fundamental biological process. Cells divided, organs formed, hearts beat, and life emerged. The only difference was scale. One hatchling entered the world ready to run. The other entered the world needing complete parental care. Yet both have extraordinary futures ahead. As our experiment comes to an end, the empty eggshells remain as reminders of one of nature's greatest miracles. From the world's biggest bird egg to one of the world's smallest, every egg carries the promise of new life. Which one amazed you the most, the giant ostrich egg or the tiny hummingbird egg? Let us know your answer in the comments below. If you enjoyed this experiment, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next amazing wildlife experiment. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.